Tonight, an elderly woman is dead after she wandered outside of a nursing home over the weekend. She fell down in the cold, and this is the third time in as many months a tragic incident like this has happened here in Northeast Ohio.
Our Bree Buckley spoke to advocates who are sharing advice to families concerned about this disturbing trend.
Shock and concern after a 92-year-old woman was found dead outside the Woodside Senior Living facility in Bedford Saturday morning. Police say Annie Lee Luckett was in the memory care unit, unable to care for herself, and nurses found her body around 6 a.m. Saturday. They believe she left the building through an alarm door, but that alarm didn't go off. They say she slipped on ice and was unable to get up. Staff told police they last saw her around 3 a.m. using the restroom, roughly 3 hours before she was found.
Everything having to do with long-term care or care in a skilled nursing facility specifically really revolves around staff.
Pete Van Runkel is the executive director of the Ohio Healthcare Association, representing over 1,000 long-term care facilities across the state. He says patients wandering off unfortunately happens often, with majority of long-term care residents suffering from dementia. This is the third incident in 3 months in Northeast Ohio. On December 26th, an elderly woman was found dead outside of a Cleveland Heights nursing home. In early November, a similar situation outside the Merriman nursing home in Akron. Van Runkel says the industry is dealing with staffing shortages, often having to rely on outside help, which can come with some challenges.
A lot of providers end up having to use agencies, temporary agency staff, and those folks don't necessarily know the ropes all that well or have that much of a commitment to the residents.
He says the association is pushing for state regulations on staffing agencies and a higher reimbursement rate from Medicaid to the providers to create sufficient wages amid rising costs.
The wages have just skyrocketed over the last few years during COVID. And the reimbursement rates haven't kept up with that. And so that's a major advocacy area for us going into this year's state budget.
If you're concerned about a loved one in long-term care, he says to visit often and be as involved as possible. Know the staffing level at that facility and if they're using an agency. He says to share your loved one's tendencies with staff, something he did with his own mother.
With my mother, it turned out to be not a major problem. She ended up at the local CVS, and they brought her back. But that's not all. It doesn't always end up that way.
Now, the Ohio Attorney General's office is investigating this recent incident. That's per protocol. I reached out to the facility for a comment, but I have not heard back.
Wow, such a tragic story there. All right, Bree Buckley live for us tonight. Bree, thank you.
Of course.